today we are talking about Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, the movie slash screenplay book that I bought after watching it the first time. So what I did was I watched it, just enjoyed it, and then I read it and sort of had a more analytical view, and then I saw it for a second time. I caught so many more things in the book and in the second time watching it than I did just watching it the first time, so hopefully this will be a really good discussion. If you don't know what Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them is about, our main character's name is Newt Scamander, and he goes into New York with a case full of his pets, his creatures. And at one point, some of those creatures escape his case and wreak havoc in the wizarding community and the muggle community, which they call muggles no mages in America. It's written by Jo, and I could feel her storytelling in the movie. I could feel it in the screenplay much more so than I could when I was reading The Cursed Child. That just didn't feel like her story. But this 100% is. So this is the Harry Potter next thing that we all needed but didn't know we needed. I'm so excited that there are going to be 4 more movies, and there's so much that she can do, and you know that she wouldn't sign off on a 5-movie deal if she didn't have a story arc that needed 5 parts. So I'm just very excited to see where she takes it, and if you haven't seen the movie or read the screenplay, then I would recommend leaving now. Go watch it, come back, discuss with me. It'll be wonderful. It'll be great. Okay. Bye. Bye. The Warner Brothers logo came on and Hedwig's theme started playing. I just almost lost it, my mates. I almost started crying. I was seeing a Harry Potter movie, technically, in theaters. It got me a little bit emotional. It did. And then all the newspapers fly up after, you know, that little shot of Grindelwald at the beginning. But after that, all the newspapers fly up onto the screen, and there's all the moving pictures and the headlines about Grindelwald, and I just wanted to read all of them. Oh, another reason why I really liked the book, because it had all the headlines written out in this, at least all the important headlines that talk about Grindelwald. And I love how when Newt first goes into New York and he has to get his case checked, he like turns on the little muggle-worthy switch, so it's like it looks like there's a Hufflepuff scarf in there, and I don't know, it's the little things, the little magical things that are so cool to me. When we go into Queenie's house and Tina's house, we see how they're using magic all domestically, and it's really cool to see all that, how the strudel just gets made in the air and it looks so magical. I love it. Oh my god, there was a joke that just absolutely killed me when Newt ran into the Second Salem people, and she was like, "Are you a seeker? A seeker after truth?" And he says, "I'm more of a chaser, really." Newt, this is not the time nor place. Oh my god, and Jacob Kowalski was such an amazing character. He added so much to the story, and he was just so adorable, because the first like interaction that they have, Jacob's all nervous and he's asking Newt why he's here, and Newt just says, "Oh yeah, you know, the same as you are," because he's a little too busy to engage in conversation. And Jacob says, "You're here to get a loan to open up a bakery? What are the odds of that?" Well, may the best man win, I guess. Going back to Queenie and Tina, Queenie seems to be a legitimens, but it doesn't look like she trained that way or anything. She is naturally a legitimens because she talks about how she can't help it, like people are hurt. It's easiest to read people when they're sad, and she just can't help hearing their thoughts. That's really interesting. We don't know much about legitimens, except for Snape, who trained really hard to become a legitimens. He wasn't naturally one, so I hope we dive more into this and what this means and how is this important, because obviously that's going to be important. I think my favorite scene in the whole movie was when Jacob and Newt go into the case for the first time and look around at all the characters, but like before they even go in the case, Newt just kind of walks in, and then Jacob's just watching him and he just yelps. But in the case, you see how enormous it is and how many creatures are in there and how much Newt cares about these creatures. Like, he goes up to the Akamis, the little snake bird things. Those are like my favorite creatures. And he's like, "Mommy's here, Mommy's here." And I'm like, this is so cute. He named the Thunderbird Frank. Like, I just think that's hysterical that he named like this majestic, ginormous Thunderbird Frank. The Erumpent, that big thing that broke into the zoo and made like a bunch of animals able to roam New York City, and a lion is walking up to them, and Newt says, you know, New York is considerably more interesting than I'd expected. But then they go into the zoo, and Newt starts doing the irrumpent mating ritual, and it was just so funny. It was like a solid 3 or 4 minutes of Newt just like dancing really weirdly, and it's like, I want to know, like, where did he learn that? And once they, you know, capture the irrumpent, they go into the case, Jacob and Newt, and then Tina thinks she's doing the right thing and closes them up in the case and takes them to MACUSA, the Magical Congress of the United States of America. Oh, I didn't talk about MACUSA yet. I think MACUSA is so cool. It was so cool having a Congress of Magic instead of a Ministry of Magic, because that's how it is in America. Oh, light. Hi. And we're back. I had to just recharge my lights. And I loved how there was that like big clock in the center that was like on a scale of 1 to 8 on how big of an emergency there was in the wizarding world. I thought that was so just the small things. It was so cool. But anyway, Tina brings the case into this big room with all the people. Newt and Jacob get out, and some dude is like, oh, Scamander, Theseus Scamander, the war hero, and then someone's like, no, that's his younger brother. And like, what? Are we gonna know more about Theseus Scamander? What's his deal? Maybe it's one of those things where he's always like trying to live up to his brother. Like everyone's like, oh, it's Theseus Scamander, but it's, oh no, it's just Newt. When his case got confiscated and they were dragging him away, the only thing he was shouting was, please don't harm my creatures, they're not dangerous. And that just like, that is just Newt's character right there. He cares so much about his creatures, and it just kills me. It just kills me. Oh, and it was so creepy, the whole potion boily thing, the death potion that they were dragging Newt and Tina into. Oh my god. And Tina addressed the lady, the executioner, as Bernadette. So it's like Tina knew her name, they knew each other, and she was like, oh, it's okay, look, doesn't that look good? Don't you want to jump into that pool of death? Come on, you do. No. Oh, it was so creepy. That whole scene, she was just hypnotized. When everything goes bad in the little pool thing, that's when you find out that like the reason that she lost her aura license or whatever was because she pretty much stepped in between that lady harming Credence. And speaking of Credence, okay, Credence and Graves, it was so messed up. Okay, so in the movie, obviously, it looks like just really creepy and weird, and Graves is just like weirdly manipulative, you know? In the screenplay, it like just a little bit goes into more depth that like basically Credence has never felt like any sort of like connection before with a person, like especially like an older figure, like a father figure. Graves hugs Credence and then pulls away, and Credence is like still like trying to linger on to that human contact, and that's just heartbreaking to me because eventually Graves just throws Credence away because he thinks that Credence is just useless, like he's a squib, he doesn't whatever, when in reality Credence is the obscurial. Like, I knew that Graves was Grindelwald from the beginning because, I mean, there was that one shot in the beginning, you know, the very first scene, where it's like from the behind and you see like the back of Grindelwald's head with the haircut, and then there's like a couple scenes later, it's the exact same shot, like same framing, same haircut, just different colors, and it's Graves. So I'm like, oh, Graves equals Grindelwald. Got it. I want to talk a little bit more about Jacob because he is so precious. Like there's the part where they were all in that bar and like he wanted a drink and he's like, what do I gotta do to get a drink around here? And then the house elf just kind of throws a drink up onto the counter and he's like, what, you've never seen a house elf before? And Jacob goes, what? Yeah, I love house elves. My uncle's a house elf. So the whole thing in the subway happens with the big battle. I thought everything was gonna be okay when Tina got there because she started talking and Credence was like starting to calm down, but then it just, that isn't what happened. Credence ended up dying, and then they finally revealed Graves as Grindelwald, and he got captured and he's Johnny Depp, which is like kind of weird. Like, and I caught something the second time I watched the movie. I didn't catch it the first time, but I think that Credence is gonna come back. I think he's still alive, okay? First of all, this might just be wishful thinking because I loved Credence and I really, really don't want him to be dead and gone forever. I want him to come back and like be happy for once in his life. So once everything, like, he like blew up and there were all those black wispy things flying in the air. It looked like dead flying wispy things, you know? It didn't have any movement. It wasn't moving on its own. It was like floating in the wind or whatever. Then it like does this close-up on this one little wispy thing, but it doesn't look like the rest. It looks like it's moving on its own, and then it sort of just flies up out of the subway and then into the air. Does that possibly mean that, like, maybe Credence is still alive? Maybe. I feel like he can't be dead, because, like, we still don't really know why he's still alive. Like, he was alive after all that time. He was a teenager, but most Obscurial don't live past the age of 10. And then, after that all happens, they use Frank in order to obliviate the entire city, which there are a lot of holes in that, let me tell you, because, like, pictures were taken, so, like, that, like, the rain couldn't have obliviated the pictures. And also, I feel like something is gonna slip through the cracks where not everyone has been obliviated. When he stepped out into the rain to obliviate himself, I started crying. It was so sad because he was trying to smile. He was trying to be like, yeah, see, like, it's just like waking up, right? I'll be fine. And then he just steps out into the rain, and then he, like, wakes up, and then they're gone. But then Newt, he runs into him and switches their suitcases, and the suitcase that he leaves with Jacob is full of the alchemy eggs so he can start his bakery, and oh, it just made me so happy. And then all of his little pastries were the creatures. They were in the shapes of the creatures, so, like, he has to remember, right? He has to, because then Queenie came in, right? And instead of, like, just, like, not remembering Queenie, he, like, felt his neck where the creature bit him, so he, like, had a flicker of memory. I'm pretty sure I don't have anything else to say. Like, this truly felt like a Harry Potter book, you know? Like, it truly felt like the next installment. I hate to bash on the Cursed Child again, but this was what was next in the Harry Potter universe, not the Cursed Child. This is this. Well, that is all I have to say about this. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all later. Bye.